There's a little thing called conditioning. I know we've discussed this quite a bit before, and I think it's worth taking a look at specifically how Disney conditioning has impacted us all. It's really powerful to see why we think the way we do. And when we are on autopilot, there is a sense of this is just who I am. This is just the way I am. But the truth is we are a compilation of many things. Our epigenetics, what we're born with, and how we were raised, our past experiences, traumas, joys, love, rejection, disappointment, all of it mixed in there, as well as what we have subconsciously formed belief-wise. And that's the piece where conditioning can touch every part of our lives. And really what it is it is the influence of a person, an experience, an idea on our psyche. But that can touch everything. It obviously, we experience conditioning in our bodies, we experience it in our minds, in our emotions, beliefs, our hearts, and the way we view the world. So, very important to look at and ask ourselves, why do I believe the way I do? What do I believe? And where did that belief come from? Where was it first formed? And how has it been reinforced since? Let's begin. Let's look at Disney and some of the messaging there. I think it's pretty obvious as adults. We can look back and say, oh, wow. Disney, early Disney, okay, maybe pre-Frozen, really pumped the idea of damsel in distress. There's a woman who cannot take care of herself for whatever reason, various reasons. And then she literally waits. Her life is just simple existence / survival until the prince comes and rescues her. And then from there, it's implied there's a happily ever after, okay? Those are the three elements of Disney. Thank you, Disney. What a magical experience of fantasy that you created for us all, that we deeply imprinted on our emotional and relational blueprints, and spend the rest of our lives fighting because it's not reality. It's just not reality. No part of that is. Women are not inherently weak or in distress and needing to be rescued. Obviously, the messaging in our patriarchal society says something very different, gives a very different proclamation about that. But the truth is, and I hope we're finding this with time and evolution, progress, that women are extremely powerful, especially when we are supported and allowed to be our true selves. So physically, a lot of times, yes, women are biologically smaller, muscled. Okay, our body is literally made up in different ways. I'm not going to deny that or pretend that's not real. However, psychologically, emotionally, any form of leadership and essence in the world, not weaker. We're just not. Men are not better than us, and women have been downplayed for sure. I don't think we've yet seen the potential of women as a society come to fruition. There's still not a lot of space for that, but small changes, I hope, are being made. So let's address that first, okay? Because if girls see from an early age all these damsels in distress and all these women who just can't figure life out. They just, their lives are broken. They're helpless. They're downtrodden. They need to be saved. They just cannot save themselves. What messaging does that give her? What message does that give our girls? It allows them that visual connection to weakness in that way, being less than, being a victim, being in need of a savior. All right. Does every girl do this? No. Do the super highly sensitive, imaginative ones like me do this? Yes, 100%. I take it farther than Disney. I took that so far. I don't think it's in service of girls and women to send that messaging so loud and clear through visual arts or even music, truly, or novels. Like, I have a strong distaste for weak female characters where they are in need of, some gallant savior. It's just grotesque to me. It plays on the patriarchal threads, okay? So that's one piece. The next piece is that life is on hold until this unicorn man shows up. And this is a straight disservice to women, that our lives begin when we find the one, quote unquote, the relationship, the guy, that's going to just have the key to unlock all our greatness and potential and all of that. Such a disservice to women, also a disservice to men. Both of those things, the savior complex situation and victim, and the men holding the key to unlocking all the women's potential. Like, that's a heavy burden to carry as a man who probably doesn't have the exposure to emotional maturity and skill sets that would be needed to rescue and unlock all women's potential. Woo! I don't know that they have schools and courses for that. I don't know how well that would go. So let's really look at that messaging, okay? Because the truth is women's lives begin as soon as they begin to create them, period. And we, she, her, they get to create them however they want, whenever they want. And that is empowering. It's not that, like, even the messaging of, oh, you can do or be anything you set your mind to. Of course, that can be true. And we want to be open to exploring all things that are of interest to girls and boys, right? But realistically, what we want to empower our kids to do, no matter what their gender or orientation or views about themselves are, is that they have the freedom to always grow and evolve and follow that growth with curiosity and exploration, and try new things and see what's interesting to them and intrigues them and follow that, and develop any skill sets that they need to do those things and take them as far as they want to take them. Okay. Now, for me, if I was told you can do anything you want. Well, the truth is I couldn't, and on a fundamental level, we're getting very nitpicky here, but it's in the nuance. And there are some neurodivergent kids that can see through this, and then they don't believe you when you say stuff, right? I have one of those. I can't do general comments like, you're so smart, you can do anything that you want. My son would be like, no, I can't. I don't have the money or time or skill set to do this or that. And I'm like, okay, well, that's true. And for me, I could not be a math teacher. I could not teach people how to do math, because that's so outside of what my brain is capable of in this iteration of life. I can accept that because all that means is that there's other things for me. There's other things for my soul work and journey here on earth. Okay, so not to get off on a rabbit trail there, but let's see how we can paint a realistic but very open ended path or options for our children. And so lastly, let's just address that the happily ever after will happen after the damsel in distress is saved by the prince who clearly knows everything to unlock her potential somehow. And then they both just live happily ever after. No, they don't. They don't. There's a lot of issues there because a lot of times that's based on chemistry. We've talked about that. And there's heavy emphasis on the fate and raw connection of just idealistic fantasy of chemistry. Very non-existent acknowledgement of the work that it takes to grow and develop as an individual and mature in relationships with another person. There's a lot of skill sets that's actually needed to make a relationship not just work, but fit two people or more, however many people are in the relationship, to fit each person in an authentic, fulfilling way. That takes life skills. So the goal here is just to wake up to the conditioning and how it's played a role in your thinking about yourself as a human. You know, for men, have you felt the pressure to be a savior, to have all the answers, to go in and rescue? That's heavy. And it's also sad that that burden has been laid on all males' shoulders. And then as women, where have we played ourselves small, stayed quiet, stayed low, paused our lives waiting for some hypothetical prince to come and make it all right? Okay. And then what do we want to do now with this information? Now that we're seeing this, this is like literally a lie we've been told our whole lives from so many different platforms and people and concepts. What do we want to do? How do we want to live and grow and expand out of that conditioning? And there's the work.